Hello and welcome to the High Note Podcast. I am your host, Sean Smith. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm recording this podcast intro on Halloween 2022. Hope everybody is having a good one. I wonder where Fish is playing this year on Halloween. I should have looked that up. Just reminds me of going to see Fish in 2013 at Boardwalk Hall, which was pretty incredible. I think that was my second... No, that would have been my fourth Fish show, my fourth, fifth, and sixth fifth show, and a blog that I ended up publishing for the High Note blog instead of the Current because I got fired right after that. Me and a bunch of other people. So, yeah, so pretty interesting. So, Halloween, happy Halloween, everybody. Speaking of the High Note blog, you can check out the High Note blog. Every Tuesday, I put up a new review at highnoteblog.com. Every Friday is New Music Friday, so I put up a list of all the albums that are released. You can check that out also at highnoteblog.com. Then about once a month, I try to bring you a new podcast, an interview, typically with somebody from the music industry who I'm friends with, somebody I've discovered, and I think that you should learn about. So you can subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. Please go ahead and subscribe to the High Note wherever you listen, Spotify. We're even on YouTube, so check us out. Please hit that subscribe button. And you can also find us on social media, anywhere you social media, at High Note Blog, just like highnoteblog.com, just at High Note Blog. Anywhere you do social media, you can give us a follow. That would be great. And I also put out a email newsletter. So I put out the first one last month. You can subscribe to that at highnoteblog.com, just about where you get everything else. Maybe I'll put a little link in the show notes here for my interview with Bran Nu. My buddy Bran Nu, he is a rapper from South Jersey. Met him a few years ago and have been following him on social media. And one of the great things about his Instagram page and his Snapchat, you can follow. I'll put the links in the show notes. But if you follow him on Instagram, say at Bran Nu Jersey, with a Z, he puts up videos of him freestyling in his car while he's driving, which is pretty cool because that was how I learned about his music, and that about his music career, and started following him. More recently, he has gotten into touring, and I guess through the pandemic, we get into the whole kind of backstory as to how he first got into hip-hop and first started rapping, which goes back to his high school days and then through today. And right now he's kind of on break on a tour. So he did a tour up through Connecticut, and then he is home right now, and he's going to be going on tour this week, actually. So the week that this is released, I'm hoping that this is going to go out on November 1st. So Bran Nu is currently touring with CL Smooth on the Full Blast Fall Tour. You can see them Thursday, November 3rd at the Shaskeen in Manchester, New Hampshire. Friday, November 4th at G-Force Entertainment in Bangor, Maine. Saturday, November 5th at Electric Haze in Worcester, Maine. And Sunday, November 6th at the State House in New Haven, Connecticut. So you can check out Bran Nu's mixtape, which is called Total BS, on SoundCloud. And I'm going to link everything up in the show notes. You can find a lot of his things through the link tree, which is on his social media page and in the show notes here. So without further ado, here is... Oh, and before I forget, I have to give credit to Paul Dixon for another intro song. Thanks, man. Appreciate you dropping me another theme song. I asked him to do a new one, so we'll see how long we can keep this going. So thanks again to Paul Dixon for the theme music. And now, without further ado, my interview with Bran Nu. Bran Nu, welcome to the High Note Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. It's an honor and a privilege to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a long time in the making. I'm really stoked to have you. And Bran Nu, I want to take me back, man. Where are you from and how did you get started in the rap game?
Yeah, that's a good question, dude. Well, just quick shout out to you, just as a person, bro. I gotta say to all your fans and everything that you're just an amazing human, and it's been an honor and a privilege to know you over the past couple years. And it's
Oh,
so cool to
thanks.
see all the things that you do with all the gifts and talents that you've been given, like the music blog and just your business for helping other people get seen more on the internet, and just the marketing and just all the things that you do. Like, you always do it from the heart, and you can tell that you care about your clients and you care about what you do, and I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, I
So
appreciate
thank you
that,
for
man.
having
And
me.
I'm happy that we're getting a chance to talk. We don't see each other as much as we used to when we were in yoga together, which is how we met. Which is a good place to meet people. I'll tell you what, man. I've met a couple of good friends in yoga, and you are one of those couple.
Isn't that wild, dude? How we go back, the wellness center, such good times, such like the universe, universal, like, ordained meetings with people, just a series of events that led us to know one another. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So you're a rapper. How did you
Yes.
tell me about your beginnings, man? Tell me
Right.
about the
So
origin
I'm,
story. If this was like comic book number zero, how would it begin?
yeah. So, okay. Yeah. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and my family, I'm an only child. My dad and my mom's only child. My dad had two children from his first marriage. So I have two older half brothers, but never lived with them. So I was raised in, like, the only child experience. My mom's only son. Like, I was in a pretty, you know, like a nice middle class house growing up. We had morals and values, but not like religion. Respect, honesty, love, that kind of stuff. But like, there was a lot I couldn't really do. They were kind of over. Like, I was my mom's only kid. Like, she was, needed to know where I was every second of the day and who I was with, and just couldn't listen to certain music, couldn't do certain things, couldn't go certain places. So I got into music. It's really been in my, looking back, even when I joined the concert band in fourth grade with the clarinet.
Nice,
We had
nice.
this one song called Band Rap, and I was chosen as one of the MCs. And like, we dressed up like hip hop people. We had like oversized shirts and backwards hats and glasses, and like, we were just like giving shout outs to the instruments. Like, we got the clarinets, dude, we got the drum, and but I was like a rapper in like fourth grade, looking back. Um, but I was like, yeah, I don't. It was a classical music, and thank God I had jazz music and classical music as a lot of my early influences. But really, I wasn't like inspired to play that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I finally got into hip hop on the low. My friend's older sister, she was in high school when we were in like fifth grade, and we dug into her room every chance we got, and we like found all of her old
Yes.
NWA and Snoop Dogg tapes.
Yup.
And we would have sleepovers and wait up until like midnight when we were sure his mom was asleep. One of us would listen on headphones. One of us would post at the door and make sure nobody was coming. And we would listen to these songs. And like, I'd never heard anything like this. And I was like, yes, like, I loved it. It was crazy. The curses and just like the sexual innuendo and just like all of it. Not even innuendo, just straight out like, what? Like, it was it was quite an education. So
So you
fast
were
forward.
always so wait, so let me just back you up there. So you were always like into music, right? So what were you listening to like with your friends and then what was this that like blew your mind open?
Yeah. So I probably, the first mainstream music I guess I got into was like alternative, like grunge, like Green Day, Nirvana,
Yep.
and then I
Yep.
moved into more like like Offspring, that kind of stuff. Like,
Yep.
and then I got into more like Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera for a while, Slayer, went through a little phase like that. And then right around the time when all my friends, like maybe eighth grade, ninth grade, were like really into rock and metal. I think I was maybe a freshman or a sophomore when Wu-Tang Forever came out. And
Oh.
Wu Wear,
Yep.
the clothing line that Wu-Tang made,
Yep.
became like pretty popular in my high school, and like a lot of the older kids were wearing it. And I heard some of the songs on Wu-Tang Forever, and I was like, I like this. But like all my rock friends were like mock Wu-Tang and Wu Wear and like people that wore it and stuff. And I'm like, I actually kind of like this. And like they would make fun of me. They called me Old Dirty Brandon because I liked rap. They called me ODB, Old Dirty Brandon. And at this time, like I don't remember my timeline's off with the years and everything, but like
Sure.
they bought me like a Wu Tang Forever poster, like mockingly. Like I loved it. Like I hung it up and everything. So then when Eminem's Slim Shady EP came out
Oh yeah.
with Kim on it and just Hi My Name Is and everything, that was the album that really, oh yeah, like right when the Wu Tang thing came out, when I started to get into hip hop and
This
like
is like 98, 99. I think that Eminem album came out in 99. I'm not looking it up,
yeah.
but just by memory.
Okay, so probably like 98-ish, I got a Columbia House membership. And just like
Yes.
I got like 17 hip hop albums. I just did my homework and I went to college through Columbia House basically of hip hop and I got all these CDs for a penny and I did, I got Return to the 36 Chambers and Doggy Style and I got just all these classic rap albums, Notorious B.I.G., just like all kinds of stuff that, and I feel, Nas, and then just, feel like caught up a little bit. And then when I heard the Slim Shady EP when that came out in like '99 or whatever, I was like, oh, I want to do this. Like that's what I want to do. Because I'd always been a writer, creative writing, stories. I was always in those type of classes. I liked writing anything, papers, term papers, thesis. Like I was just a good writer, poetry. And I was like, I want to start to do hip hop now. And I had written a couple little songs and like rapish type stuff, like more like Limp Bizkity than anything. Like, but I had done it already. But when that album came out, I was like, now I want to do this. And that's basically how I got into becoming an MC. I, learned about like freestyle rap, and it was cool because I was already into jazz and jazz music, and it's the roots of hip hop are based in jazz and like that improvisation of just the scales as a jazz musician, like A flat, A sharp scale, the B flat, all the major scales, the minor scales, and then to be able to be with other musicians that also know that stuff, and then to be like, all right, let's just stay in the key of D, and we're just gonna make it sing, and like like to just make it up in the moment, and that like group consciousness of each person knows like when it's their time to do a solo, like you can just feel it. You can feel it in a group, like even in a conversation with a bunch of people, like you kind of know when it's your turn to speak, and like if you talk when you're not supposed to, like it's like jazz, it's hip hop, it's the cipher. You're in a circle with a bunch of MCs, and like when it's your turn to rap, and you step in, and it's like you feel the energy of the group kind of fill you up for a minute, and that was always like kind of cool when I started to learn about that stuff, hip hop and like the fun things like freestyling and ciphering. And then I started to try to do it, and I was like, I remember one time I was in a car with a bunch of people and we were going to buy weed actually. And like we were driving to buy some bud. And I wasn't like known to be into hip hop or like publicly like to be rapping at the time. And I was with some kids and a couple of them did and freestyled. And we were on our way back from getting the weed and we were at a red light and this one kid just started rapping. We were all smoking and everything. Like I was feeling it. Like it was my turn next. Like nobody knew it, but it was. And I just started rapping and I killed it. Like compared to what was happening in the car at the time, like I crushed it. And they turned around and looked at me. And I remember the feeling. I was just like, like there's something here. Like I felt whether it like gave me street cred or like value in my own mind, like it did. It did something for me where I was like, this adds to who I am as a person. I want to do more of this. like
Wow.
I don't know if it was like just from an attention seeking standpoint or if it was just like I recognize value because I have talent, but something about it felt good and I wanted to do more of it. And I started to write rhymes and memorize them and perform in talent shows and like any kind of competition like my high school had. Like I would use hip hop in that, that would be my talent for the show or whatever. And yeah. Am I rambling? Do you want me to keep
No, no,
going?
that's awesome. I did fact check myself. It was December 10th, 1997 was when Slim Shady EP came out. So it was like
It
right
came out
before
in
night.
97?
Yeah, December 10th,
Oh yeah, because the
97.
96 97 Bonnie and Clyde or the 90 that's right, that song. So yeah, my timeline was way off too. So 97, I graduated eighth grade. I didn't hear the album until the Hi My Name Is video came out.
Yup.
That's what made me go buy it.
Same. Yeah, same. Which for me that was a little bit later. Felt like that was a little bit later. I guess it was 98, you know. So
It must
that's
have been, yeah, because
uh,
when that video dropped, I was like, the next day, I went to the mall with my buddy who just got his license, grabbed the album, and
yeah.
fell asleep to it every night for like a month. Like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy.
Yes, yes. So that's interesting that you came to it from Wu Tang, which is like a collaboration, and also East Coast. You got to shout out and Wu Tang forever, of course. But but then it was Eminem, and it was like freestyling by yourself. So then, as you progressed, like as you were writing rhymes, were you always solo? Did you it sounds like that your background in music kind of keened in on the or honed in on like the production aspect. Where did you go from here, like once you kind of started getting into it, and
Yeah.
like getting writing the rhymes and recording stuff, and when was your first recording?
So I think it was junior year in high school. I still had the Columbia House membership
Nice.
because
Yes.
whatever year Dr. Dre's 2001, the Chronic 2001 came out, he released an instrumental version of that.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
the Chronic 2001 instrumentals came out, and I got that in the Columbia House, and that's how I actually did my first uh, hip hop, I guess, recording. Because I recorded some like guitar singing stuff with friends before on like a 4 track, but this was like the first hip hop thing I did. And my buddy had like he was a DJ. He had like a little turntable thing and a mic, and we just put the CD thing in there. And then we had to rig it because it wasn't like he had a CD turntable. It was like we had a microphone hooked up to this speaker by the CD play just so we could hear that, and then my voice over it. And I recorded it to a tape. So I have a safe. It's got like a tape of me rapping on there under the name Decipher. D
Decipher.
E Decypher.
And so how did you come up with that?
Like it's like the cipher, like in hip hop, like a group of MCs standing around, rapping. So I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
decipher, like you got to figure it out, like an enigma, like deepness, that kind of a thing.
Also outside of the group, right? Outside of the cipher.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, solo. So that's when I did my first recording, and then I did very well in high school. I graduated fifth in my class.
Oh
I'm an
wow!
Eagle Scout.
Congratulations! Holy shit,
That's
man.
on paper I look really good. Thank you.
In person, you look really good, and it's not just the tattoos either, man.
Uh, I appreciate it, dude. But like, as far as like the game of life goes, in high school, I did everything right. I was, just vice president of my class and varsity track and varsity soccer, and like I did all these things to get into college because like that's what you're supposed to do. But like, I didn't want to go to college. I had AP credits and all this stuff from biology, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. Like at that point in when I was graduating high school, I just wanted to like do music, maybe take a year off, travel, join like the Peace Corps, just like develop this hip hop thing. But I was the first person in my family to go to college. My dad
Sure.
had some money saved. I had a lot of scholarships. I had a lot of grant money, and they were like, "You're going," basically.
Yep.
So I
You
went
don't
in
have a choice.
undeclared. Basically, like poor me, poor white privilege. Like poor little kid has to go to college. Like it sounds ridiculous, but I didn't want to do it. Like I didn't see that as my path. But
Sure.
I did, and I went nuts on the freedom because I had been very, from like an overprotective house, and I kind of left the nest, and I'm like, I don't have, no one knows if I go to class, I can smoke pot all day long. Like what it was crazy, the freedom and just
And
I linked up with some hip hop people.
did you stay in like the New Jersey area, or where
Yeah,
did you venture off? You didn't go to the West Coast, right?
I went to Stockton.
Oh,
That's how
okay.
I came down to
You
the South Jersey area.
gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yep, yep. So I
Shout out
linked
to the
up with
Ospreys.
yeah, shout out Ospreys,
I saw a
Stockton
show. I saw a
University.
show at Stockton. Early in like high school, I think was one of my. I think one of the first punk shows that I went to is at Stockton, in high school. Yeah, gotta love it. Sorry, I keep going. So you hooked up with some hip hop guys where you were at Stockton.
Yeah. That's cool, dude. Like you mentioned, they had some good shows there. They would have big. I saw the Roots at Stockton. They came in and
Yes,
toured. Yeah,
the
yeah,
Roots.
it's crazy.
Who else? I know Ben Queller played there, and I was bummed that I couldn't see him for some reason. I'm a big Ben Queller fan. I got to get him on the podcast.
You
Um,
know what? I don't mean to cut you off, Ben. I have to look up Ben Queller. I don't know his music,
oh
but
man,
actually,
he's
just lied on
great.
your podcast. I remember I had Roots tickets. I went to Mays Landing to my girlfriend at the time's house and got too drunk and couldn't drive to Stockton to see the Roots. I
Oh
didn't see the
no,
concert,
oh no.
but they came to Stockton just in case anybody fact checks me. I don't really like to lie much, but I just did one on accident, so I had to just tell the truth.
Like I saw you passed out on that girl's couch.
Yeah, she'll be like, I heard your interview, mother. You did not see that show. Mm. Yes. So I went to Stockton. I linked up with some guys that were doing what I wanted to do, and we started. They already actually had a record label going on that I kind of joined.
Oh
So this was
wow.
like the first
Okay.
time I sort of like got involved, but it was more so on like I thought I was at a certain level with my music, and it was kind of like big fish in a small pond type thing. Then I
Sure.
went away to college, and I was like, whoa. So I kind of went through like an intense training process as an MC under the tutelage of like the president of the label, but I stepped in as one of the vice presidents. So we had a president and two vice presidents, and it was cool because we all got an off-campus apartment together, and every day was just about like music and the label and lining up shows and trying to sell CDs and trying to record stuff, and it was awesome.
Now
Went
was
through some just go ahead.
I'm just curious. Was Dark Child, was Rodney Jerkins a an influence or a presence at Stockton, because he lives, or he did live, in Galloway, and he had the studio there in Pleasantville, and that was like the biggest studio in the area. You know, you'd hear about crazy people coming into town, coming to record over there. Was that at all? Did that influence you guys at all, or who were like the big names, or what were you guys, or was it just
So
you guys were on your own, doing your own
he
thing?
Rodney Jerkins was like the Jersey Devil of the area, like the Loch Ness monster of like the local music. Like I'm sure people that were actually doing it big, like sure went to his house and flew in, but like we weren't there at the time, so it was always like, look, know what this guy looks like. Like you might see him at Wawa, like you might run into him at the mall. Like have your pitch down. Like you might only get one chance. Like we were about that life. Like you need to know who the music executives look like. Like you need to.
Although
So we.
it'd be more likely that you'd be hanging, like I actually like hung out with his nephews, and they were sweet, super sweet, but like it wasn't until the third or fourth time that I hung out with them that I realized that they were related at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was just like, nah, they're just 15-year-olds with bling. Like, you know, who am I to judge? I don't know if that shit's real. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Oh, that's funny.
so yeah, so you were like in the music industry. You literally got a college education in the music industry in college.
I suppose. Yeah. You know, we were doing our thing to the best of our ability that we knew how, and I think a bunch of different things happened. We I think it was creative differences, just ideological differences. One thing, you know, we just disbanded and kind of went our separate ways. Two of the guys did their own thing for a little while, and I don't know. I got to a point where I was like, I don't know, man. I think this might just be like a hobby. Now, this is a thing that I've gone through several seasons in my, I want to call it career, but you know, I go through varying stages of intensity and seriousness where I'm like, this is my career and this is what I'm going to do to make money and eat. And then it's like, I think this might just be a hobby. Like, I think I need to get a real job. And then sometimes it's both. like I have a real job, like my fingers are in quotes, but like really I'm just working because I know any day like my dreams are gonna take off. Like I've been to that place too, you know?
Sure. Oh
And
yeah.
at that point I was like, I think this might just be a hobby. Like I think I need, and I just kind of went off into the world of needing a job and having to have, you know, college degree and trying to fit into this work world that like as an artist that I know myself as now, I need like I require a lot. Like I'm a bit my energy is a bit high maintenance. Like I need to be able to like work when I'm inspired and not work when I'm not. And I need to, you know, there's just like all these things that I just know about myself now that once I got in alignment, things really kind of started to feel a lot easier and better. But I was trying to fit myself into that, like, you have to be something to be okay. And then I kind of switched to like, well, I'm already okay. And that's it. Everything else that I kind of really wanted and what feels best to me as far as like my unique energy goes now, like I'm in alignment with that. So I don't have, you know, my picture on the front of magazines and I'm not XYZ in the bank, but like those are no longer my goals. So I feel like I've reached my goals. So like I'm just here. I'm not really striving for anything anymore. Musically, artistically, I'm gonna keep creating because that's just what I do. Like I've tried to stop and it just there's nothing, you know, it comes in different forms. Sometimes I'm writing, sometimes I'm making music, sometimes I'm acting, sometimes I'm just hosting things, sometimes I'm just internal and just kind of like, you know, like the creative sponge fills up over time for me and then I do a project or a big thing and then like feel like I get wrung out and then there's a time of just like rest and quiet where I like get saturated again and then when it's time to get, you know what I mean, I go through these cycles. I guess we all do really, but
Oh yeah, yeah, and I completely understand. You know, it's like not to sound like old folk, but you know, it was different back then. Like now, you really only need a cell phone to be a creator, right?
mm,
Like that's all you need. It's just a cell phone and an internet connection because you have all the tools are really built into an iPhone and probably are on an Android, but I haven't used an Android in like, 10 years or something like that. So I'm out of practice, but like, you have everything. You can make music, you can make a video. If you have, you can just and upload everything to YouTube and SoundCloud and do it all right there. You don't need, back when like I tried to do the music thing in college and like you had to submit tapes and like to, do these things and like get in, like you said, you had to like, you only have one shot to like, make your pitch to like the record producer. And now it's like, well, fuck it. You can just go out there and do your thing consistently, find your audience, and then be happy with that audience, which I feel like is kind of what I've done with the high note. Even though this kind of fell into my lap through being a newspaper writer, you know.
huh. Yeah. So you have like a small, yeah, like maybe that's what's happened for me, I think. Instead of looking to like connect with the entire planet, it's like I'd rather just connect with people that actually genuinely, uniquely, you know, like organically like what I create and not just what I create, it's like me. Like I once you find the people that invest in you as a person, then it's not about really your art anymore. Because
Yeah.
if I have a great album and I get all these new fans and millions of people, my Instagram, I have millions of followers, you know, like my YouTube, millions, I have millions of dollars and all these endorsements. And then like what happens? You make now there's all this pressure. Now your next album's coming out and like you got to outdo it or else what? Now the numbers, now the fans start to leave. Now the endorsements aren't there. Now the money's leaving. Now you're losing. Now, and now it becomes about something totally different. But like if I have 20 people that love me, that support me, and that actually like what I do, if I have those 20 fans that are gonna pay $10 every time, you know what I mean? Like I'd rather it's not gonna be 20. That's the thing, but like I would rather have quality over quantity today.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like, I think the gift of, not to turn this into like a social media podcast and like the power of the internet thing, but like this is kind of like a story, because that's how I found out about you as a rapper, or realized that you were a rapper, was through social media, because you were putting up freestyles of yourself driving in the car. And then I was
Yeah,
just, and I think I mentioned it to you one day when I saw you, like, hey man, what's this all about? And you told me that you were a rapper. I had no, I think you might even have shown me do you have a Wu-Tang tattoo?
yeah,
Yeah, I think you might have shown me your Wu-Tang tattoo as like proof.
yep, yep, with Calvin and Hobbes in the middle of it.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, so it's funny you're talking about how anybody can do it nowadays, you know? It's like I did my entire mixtape that I was talking about with you at the beginning of this. I did the whole thing on my iPhone 6
Oh wow. So
with the
tell me, yeah,
headphones, like
let's
with the
talk about
microphone.
that.
So yeah, it's the whole project I did in like a month. I wrote it all, I recorded it all. Um, on my iPhone 6 in GarageBand that came with it, with the microphone that comes stock with the iPhone headphones in my bathroom.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
I mean, it's like, it's got a sound that can't really be replicated.
Sure.
It's classic. It's classic. It's funny. Two of the tracks from the project, actually, I was on Sway's Universe on Shade 45 Records for a phone interview. For his Sway's Universe Get in the Game segment.
Okay.
It's one of those things where they play two of your songs, they interview you on the phone, and then callers call in and they can say whether you should get in the game or stay on the bench. And they played the first track off my brand new Total BS mixtape called Shot Out, and I rap over a Backstreet Boys beat, so that's an
Nice.
interesting one. And then I rap over a Beatnuts beat, the Beatnuts, the producers, the Beatnuts, and that one was called Naysayers, off of my brand new Total BS thing. And you know, it's like, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but you know, I'm a little bit ahead of my time. You know what I mean? The audience clearly just wasn't ready for me at that time, and I was about to just stay on the bench. But a few people liked it, and Sway actually was kind of feeling it. And Heather B was like, "You should start a podcast," because they let me talk, and I like to talk a lot. And I was like, getting into like all this motivational stuff and blah blah blah. And she was like, "You should definitely start a podcast." She's like, "I don't know about rap, but podcast I think would be good." So that was cool. So it's like Sway did say though, he's like, "It sounds like this was recorded in a bathroom." I'm like, "Funny you should mention that, Sway."
That's
It was.
awesome. So, what was the inspiration behind that mixtape?
I really so my government name is Brandon Stevens. My initials are BS. And I'm a Taurus. So the mixtape cover is a bull taking a shit, and it's called Total BS. So it's just kind of like the sponge was full, like the creative sponge was full. It needed to be wrung out, and it was kind of like this is totally everything I have in me at the moment. And I just, like I said, the whole thing I just wrote it, and like it just poured out of me.
Yep.
And then that was it. So that was kind of the inspiration. It was just like it was time to get it out.
You just needed to get it out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
those are some of like the most iconic albums, or the one that comes to mind is just rap wise, is Apathy. I don't know if you're familiar with Apathy, but he has an album called Honky Kong that came out I think in like 2014, and he's in this like Demigods crew, and like he had been, I've been an Apathy fan like way from like 2005. I found him through like the Napster days. I got
Oh yeah.
into Sage Francis. I don't know if you're familiar with Sage Francis, but so like the underground rap scene, the East Coast underground rap scene, right? That I learned about them through like art voice. When I was in college, I wrote for this newspaper, and before that, I was just a big fan. It was just the Underground Arts newspaper, and there was like they would just cover really cool stuff, and one of them was local music and this underground art stuff or underground rap, and I think Sage Francis came through. Then I looked him up, and then it's like Napster and LimeWire. It's like I would download. I'm the reason that you can't have this anymore is because I would go on and be like, give me every Jay-Z album, please. And then I would have
Yes.
them in like 5 minutes. And it's just like, just terrible. So
Yeah.
I downloaded all this and then found this other guy, Apathy. And I don't know the full story, but basically, like, he'd been in the game for a while and just got frustrated. And he was just like, I am about to explode. And then came out with this album Honky Kong, and yeah, just tore it up, man. So it sounds like you had kind of a similar thing where it was just like it wasn't happening. Like no one was coming to you and saying like, "Hey, man, this is the we want you to be on MTV, right? Because this is the era that we're talking about still." You're like, "I'm gonna make this happen, come hell or high water." With an iPhone in my bathroom, I just needed to get it out.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I almost felt like when it was time, like when it's time to create, I can't not create. But then, if I have to create when it's not time, it's not going to be the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's more about just kind of like, I don't know. That's what's tough too. Like, you could say like, oh, it's just I work when I'm inspired, but I've gotten a lot better when I work consistently, whether I'm inspired or not, and then pick the best stuff out of that. So definitely, it's to grow. I found that it's best to work with inspiration, but then also discipline, and to have a nice mix of the two.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so, what does your creative process look like? Are you one of those guys who keeps a notebook, or you use your phone recording? How do you, or do you go into the studio and just make it happen? How does this? How do you write a song?
Yeah, a bunch of different ways, really. Like probably one of my worst habits, that's the pet peeve that the people that probably love me the most hate the most about me, is I tend to get inspired a lot while I'm driving, and I have been known to write a quick 16 while I'm driving on the notes on my phone. So, it's like a habit I'm trying to get out of. But so I write when I'm inspired. There are times that I will write specifically to a beat and just write and to see what comes. Like sometimes I think of just lines. Sometimes I write entire verses. Yeah, there's lots of different ways. Like I've been in the studio with people where we'll come up with a concept on the spot, and we'll both write, a fire 16 that goes with the theme of the song, and we come up with a hook, and we do the whole thing, right there on the spot in like an hour, and it's great. That's actually did a collaboration project with my partner Odie. He goes by Joseph Chase, and he's a songwriter and a performer and an MC. And he and I did a whole gospel-centered album. We were both kind of like reading the Bible a lot at the time and into church, and we were just at that time in our life we were very, I don't know, it was like a positive kind of thing. So we did a positive hip hop album that we never really released. Like we did to our friends and our friend group, and it was really well received, but we never put it out publicly. But we went by 419, and that was a cool project, and we came up with some really dope stuff. We were able to take positivity and like some truth and put it in a way that like was still raw, and that was fun. I like that. So I did that whole thing with him, and those were written like in the moment together. So that was like a shared energy type thing. Yeah, I like. I like to freestyle a lot too.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. How does that come about?
I started to watch on MTV, it was the Lyricist Lounge show they had for
Yes.
a little while. And at the end, they would have this freestyle segment on there. And I remember one time Mos Def was on there. And like I said, I learned about freestyling from like Eminem's album and stuff like that. And so when I heard, Eminem's album, I learned like he rapped a lot about freestyling and stuff. And I started to just like kind of get into that. And then I saw the Lyricist Lounge in the freestyle segment at the end. It was Mos Def. And he was in this scene, I think, where I'm pretty sure it was him. He's like hanging off the side of a building, and he's like, it's either him hanging off the side of the building or something, but there's a detective there, and it's like a person that's about to jump, and they're freestyling back and forth. Like, he's like, don't jump, you got a reason to live, and it's like, no, this, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, they're making this up in the moment? Like, no way. Like, it really kind of blew my mind. I was like, and that's what made me want to get better at it, because it sounded written. I was like, there's no way they're making this up, And then I heard some of Eminem's freestyles on different CDs, like, Napster. Like you said, you could find Eminem freestyle. It's like, what? Where is this? This isn't on CD. And you find all these obscure things, and that made me want to start freestyling. And then, I wasn't great at it. It's like an art. It's like an art. It's an art. I just love freestyling, and I do it for fun, and it helps my writing, and my writing helps my freestyling. But recently what I've started to do is when I freestyle, I'm giving away too many trade secrets here. This is ridiculous. I'll freestyle, and then, like when I get a hot line or something, I'll like stop and maybe write it down. And then maybe start to write a verse off that. Or if I get a couple hot lines, like I'll stop freestyling and then go into writing mode. When before I would just freestyle for the shit of it, just for fun, and then like it's just gone. And that's the cool thing about a freestyle. It's a one-of-a-kind masterpiece artwork that like can't ever be replicated unless it's recorded. But then that's it. It's gone, which is cool. But like if you have some hot lines or something in there, like they're gone unless you capture them. So that's been kind of fun, and it makes my verses a little bit wacky and wild, because when I'm freestyling, it's a different part of my brain. I go into like rhyme mode, and there's no filter. The best freestyles I have are when I'm just in my stream of thought consciousness, and there's no filter, and I'm not worried about how my mom will take the line, or what my wife will think, or what my girlfriend will think, or what any of that shit, or what my kids will think, like any of that stuff. So like if there's a filter on it, it's a performance. But when it's just unbridled flow, stream of thought consciousness, like it's something different, and it's beautiful. I'm like, I love that. And when I do that, I go to a place that I'm learning how to get to more when I write. But it's like that unjudged part of me that just flows out, and like the most outlandish shit comes out. And that's kind of what's cool about rap, when it's a little funny and a little unpredictable and not like formulaic. And that's kind of what I like to do. Be like lighthearted, but like a little bit hard, but like not really, but kind of funny, but like not corny, but just sort of like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, well, like real life. I think that's for me, the best rap that is rap that I can relate to in a way that mimics real life and all of those things that you say, where it's like, it's a little bit hard, it's a little bit corny, it's like, it's a little bit like, can you really believe this is fucking happening right now? And it's just like, it's like, it's all of those things kind of wrapped up into one unique kind of experience. And I guess that is all artists do, right? Is they interpret the world, through their lens, and then they try to explain that through their art. And that's like, I feel like for me, when I can relate to a song like that, that's what does it for me. It just kind of, it makes me feel like, yeah, you nailed it for me. And it's like the Beastie Boys rapping about guns. It's like, motherfuckers, you've never held guns, and neither have I. Outside of a shooting range, neither have I, right? But like, when I'm skateboarding, singing, looking down the barrel of a gun, I believe it with every ounce of every push, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting you say that, because like when I can get into that stream of thought consciousness place, like maybe some gun stuff comes out, You know, like I've heard a lot of gun songs. Like in my brain, there's a lot of words that rhyme that might have to do with guns or like, but like in real life, I don't want that type of energy in my world. You know what I mean? So like, I find myself feeling the responsibility of my words, not like where I'm like a role model and I don't want people to do what I do, not like that, but like just that I really feel like you get back what you put out. So if I'm careful, like I don't want to write like threatening raps. Like I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not really in the game of like, I'm harder than you are, or like I need to like assert my dominance or like prove anything. Cause for me, that's like a game that never ends. Like that aggressive, like, and that's primarily like what hip hop is. There's a heavy, like to put it nicely, there's an extremely heavy level of competition, you can call it. But like to the point where it crosses over where people die. You know what I mean? People aren't getting shot in rock and roll feuds, but like the words that have happened in hip hop, you know, in your lifetime and my lifetime, because you know, there's been a lot of things that haven't really gone well for people. And you know, you read about rappers getting robbed and jewelry and just money and drugs, and like that's not the type of like hip hop that I want to be involved in. And that's all that I thought there was for a long time. But there's like all these other genres and things, and like you don't have to feel like afraid and threatened. But like to say that, like I'm going to get those type of things back if I put that stuff out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's tough. Like sometimes like I might be feeling like when I write a verse, like I might be processing some emotion where like I feel cocky or I feel something, you know, but then it's like, well, do I want to put that down on a record where like I'm going to put that out there and then, you know, now so it's tough. Like I know what I guess I'm saying is the responsibility with my energy and my words and balancing that with like the artistry of like, I'm an artist. Like, come on, this is art. Like, don't like, you know what I mean? Realizing you have an influence, but also it's ridiculous because it's art.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting with like everything now. There's actually like court cases. I don't know how far it went up, but I know it went pretty far up. Like you know, they talk about how rap lyrics are used in court cases, and I think and I should know off the top of my head, but there's two very high profile rappers right now who are in jail. I think facing a hearing or facing a they're being tried for a crime, and their rap lyrics are being like connected with it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but and it's interesting. Like, yeah, like there's always been, not always, but like you said, in our lifetime, there's been this life or death consequence, and now there's this judicial consequence. But like, you know, I mean, did anybody like punch Walt Whitman in the face? Like, I know Edgar Allan Poe had his issues, but like, you know what I mean? Like, and like, sure, musicians have their own things, but like usually it's about like, it's usually their stances outside of, like in the rock world, it's usually like when they say something off the stage or they say something outside of a song. It's very rare that, and nowadays, that somebody is writing a Woody Guthrie like protest song and that would get people riled up. But yeah, rap on the other hand does have that kind of seriousness, that consequence to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's funny you say that. I was talking about that the other day with somebody, with rappers like telling on themselves in songs, like actual crimes, actual details. Like like, you know, people are like, you got to keep it real. Like that's a little too real, I think. Like when the prosecution can be like, Your Honor, Exhibit A, and they just play your song and you put yourself behind, like that's crazy. Me.
Write what you know, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, right. What you know, right? Right. Yeah.
You had mentioned that gospel collaboration. Are you doing anything any other collaborations, or are you sticking solo these days?
Yeah. So towards the end of the summer, I went on tour. Did this state and 5-day tour for mental health and suicide prevention awareness, and all the proceeds from the shows went to Mental Health Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
The promoter lost a friend to suicide, and he was like, "This is ridiculous. Like, I want to do something." And it's like, what do you do? So he's like, I'll raise some money. I'm doing something. So this is the second one, and they raised, I think, $11,000 this year for Mental Health Connecticut. And there's a different headliner every day during the tour, and there, 5 states in 5 days, and I got the tour. Young Z and Pace One and Rod Digga from the Outsiders were there. 2 of the dates, and then there was the last night was Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang.
Wow.
He was the headliner. Yeah, and he brought out Seek Lute as a surprise guest. So it was like I got Cannabis was there one of the nights. So I got to open up with a bunch of other dope up and coming artists for like some like headlining legends. And it was like a smaller venue. Like the whole thing is, for charity and stuff. Like it was cool. Like you got to really know people after 5 days on tour with them. And Z and I were like, let's do a collaboration album with all the artists and people that we know that are like kind of just fresh right now. So we're working on this project called The Bros. And it's got a bunch of people that you need to hear, like that we're going to help the world hear. So it's pretty cool. There's about 15 or 20 MCs that we've been working with, and we're going to have a bunch of songs on there, a bunch of posse cuts with just ridiculous bars. So it's an exciting project that we're working with a release date of Thanksgiving 2023. So that's a collabo project. Yeah, that's right around the corner. So it's been very busy with that, making that happen and getting everything organized and together. And at the same time, I'm collecting material for my solo project. I'm going to put out a solo EP. Probably the first, commercial release that I have, because the one I did in 2017 is a mixtape. And it's really just kind of like for promotional purposes. I used all types of industry instrumentals, and I don't really own the rights to anything. So it's kind of like, getting my stuff out there, like a resume. But I want to do a commercial release. I'm trying to gotta get this bread. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, I completely understand it. Congratulations, man. That sounds really great. It sounds like you got a lot of irons in the fire, because it seemed like, I guess, post-pandemic, I think the pandemic did a lot for people's creativity and things. I saw you were getting a tattoo on your back of that EP out, the album cover of the bull. And then I saw, I think I saw you were getting shirts made up. Next thing I knew, I saw was like you were getting shirts with that logo made on it. So you're really getting out there. What's that all about, man?
Yeah, man. I really started to realize that you have to invest in yourself as an artist. I think I was under the spell that a lot of maybe artists are under. I've been following some like music industry tip blogs and stuff online, and I feel like this has been a theme that I've seen where a lot of artists have this fantasy of like someone's going to swoop in and discover you, because that's kind of how it was before, where like
that's the only way it was before. You either had to know somebody, or you had to be good enough to get somebody to find you. And then, or tell somebody about, somebody who mattered to come see you, or listen to you. That was the only way possible.
Yeah. Like you said, now with the internet, everyone's got a phone. It's like an oversaturated industry, really. Like there's so many people that have music that you could listen to that are releasing music constantly, where it's like, oh man. So really, the squeaky wheel, I guess, gets oiled, and it's like no one's really going to invest in you unless you invest in yourself first, or at least that's the philosophy that I took on, where I'm like, why would anyone else invest in me if I don't do it first? So I started to take like real actual money, and I've done it before, like with the mixtape I did. I got it pressed up, and I got the cool logo put on there and everything, like in 2017, and I had a mixtape release party. Like, but you know, I hadn't been doing anything like that recently, and it was like, you know, I got this project that really means a lot to me. Like, it was a stepping stone. I was on the, you know, Sway's Universe on Shitty 4-5, and that was like huge for me at the time. You know, the influence that Eminem had on my early, like, wanting to be an MC, and then to be on the radio station that he now owns, and to see his come up from nothing to like owning, you know what I mean? Like, he hit a full circle at that time, and it was a cool stepping stone. But I hadn't done anything like that recently. And then, you know, a couple years later, this was back last April or May, I think. I had been interacting a little bit on Instagram with Young Z from the Outsiders, like, and you know, a rap group that I found because Eminem shouted them out on his album in '97 or '98, like the album you and I were talking about. When, you know, it was like, wow, like I'm talking to Young Z, who's, you know, and he's on the 8 Mile soundtrack. The Brett he went on tour, the Fugees, like, and his album came out, Scumbag. He released an EP called Scumbag, I think, in April. And I listened to Scumbag, and I was like, wow. So, like, it did kind of for me what the Slim Shady EP did, where I was like, I was in hobby mode with it at the time, you know, and I got laid off unexpectedly from, you know, Vendor Wellness. I was their personal training last, whenever it was, February. And, you know, I figured I was going to work there for the rest of my life. Like, I loved it. And then unexpectedly, boom, I'm unemployed. And it's like, well, now what? Like, I didn't see this coming at all. Like, it was a total universe thing. And I was like, well, I can just get a job I don't really like, and then just kind of make it happen, or I'll ride unemployment out a little bit. Like, I'm going to maybe pretend that, like, my unemployment checks are from music and, like, just take music seriously. And you know, Z's album came out, and I had been talking with them a little bit. What happened was I put the wrong email address in when I tried to download his album, and I didn't get it. I put it in brandnewjersey@gmail.com, and I'm like, so I messaged him on Instagram, and I'm like, can you send me the link? And like, we were going back and forth on Instagram, and then so then we got to talking, and I was like, I make music too, you know, this, that, and the other. And he's like, I was like, do you want to make music together sometime? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So like, I decided to like invest in myself by, you know, paying for a feature with like a well-known artist. So I was like, all right, let's do a song together. Because instead of me spending all that money out, you know, Burger King, Wawa, like, you know, all the places I'm just going to spend money anyway. Like, yeah, so, you know, I'll invest in myself as an artist and in my career by having a song with somebody who's really good at what they do. Like, you know, upper echelon MC who's well known, who's going to get me in front of an audience that, you know, wouldn't really listen to me because I don't have, like, why would they? In an oversaturated market, why would you listen to somebody that you don't really know? Unless somebody gives them to you and says, like you were just talking about, someone's like, yo, this person sounds good, listen to him. Like, so it's like, all right, well, I'll pay for a feature with Z, and I'll get in front of a new audience, and then I'll have this piece of artwork. That's a dope-ass song that I like, that I can listen to, like, for the rest of my life. So once I started to do stuff like that and put, like, funds behind the things that I want for my career and stop waiting, that's what it was. It was, like, waiting for someone to, like, swoop in and do for me, like, a lot of the stuff that I could already do for myself. Once I stopped waiting and just started just realizing, like, I already am. There's nothing extra I need to do, but I do need to do the work. And the work is, like, putting your resources where they need to go and, like, spending your time wisely. Like, you know, I went on tour for 5 days, and before that, I practiced for a month. I had a 13-minute set, and once or twice a day, I did my set in the car, in front of people, everywhere I could, because I wanted those 5 shows to go as well as they humanly could. Was I going to be the best rapper there? That's subjective. Was I going to put on the best show of the night? That's subjective. But what I wanted to do is put on the best show that I could put on and be as prepared as I could be. And because, like, I decided to invest in myself in that way, like, I was pleased with all 5 of my shows. And that, you know what I mean? Like, to walk away feeling like, so to invest in the time it takes to go on tour, because I drove myself, like, the tour bus was my minivan. There was no record label paying
Yeah.
for the tour or the hotels or the food. Like, it was, like, invest in yourself. But as a result of investing in myself as an artist and going on this tour, the connections that I made and the experiences that I had and the confidence that I gained, it's invaluable. It's just, you can't put a price on that type of thing. I forget why I went off on that.
Absolutely. Oh no, it's good, man. No, it wasn't a tangent. No, you totally answered my question. And I was just wondering also about that, about your solo project, like how this, what is your plan for the solo project as far as releasing it? Are you gonna release it in singles? Is it gonna be, or like, little teasers here and there as singles? Or do you have a release date planned yet? What's going on?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I think about this a lot. And there's a lot of different ways that people do release music. I'm going to most
right?
likely.
Didn't Chance the Rapper just released his first studio album, right? Like, wasn't I think it wasn't Coloring. Maybe it was Colored, but like, remember his whole thing was like, "Oh, this isn't an album. This isn't an album." Like, he had like 5 albums that weren't albums.
A bunch of mixtapes.
Yeah, but they weren't mixtapes either. They were just like, I don't know what they were. You called them projects or something stupid like that.
That's funny.
I think of a mixtape as using other people's music. That's like okay, all right, yeah. So like he was just being silly. So yeah, man. But keep going. There is a bunch of people release albums in like 4 parts now, like as 4 EPs, and then release like the whole album. I've seen that come up a lot recently, and not just as like concept albums either. And then there's people that will release like 6 singles off of like a 12, 11, or 12. So that's half of your album that you've already put out there, which is cool because people are familiar with it. But some of those songs, like when I go to review an album, it's like that song is 6 months old that I'm talking about. Like, it's kind of like, from my standpoint, it gets a little weird where I'm just like, it's a new album, but the song's 6 months old. So it's like, meh. So what do you think about what are your thoughts on your album release, and is this going to be your debut, or is this going to be this is your debut, right? Your official brand new solo debut?
Yeah, I guess that would be it. I mean, that would be the first commercial solo debut. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, man. It's funny you say that about songs being old. Like, I'm working on a bunch of new material now by the day, and I have a bunch of material in the vault that I did in like 2020, 2021, and I didn't really release any of it. So that's all new. But listening to it now compared to the stuff that I did recently, it sounds dated to me. But nobody heard it yet. So, like, it's not going to be dated for them, but for me, it sounds dated. So I'm still kind of like amassing material, really, and I want to pick, the ones that are definitely the best. But I also don't want to wait too long because it's like there's more coming. Like, the quicker you bring the sponge out, the quicker it refills. So it's like,
Sure, and it seems like you have a lot of attention on you right now. I mean, I am from what I saw, you have 2 recent interviews online, and from what I've seen on social media, it just seems like there are a lot more eyes and ears on the brand new brand.
Yeah, so that's what Z was talking about. So, Z and I are partners on this Bros project, and my solo album is going to go on Young Z Music. So Z put his project out, Scumbag. He had a record deal with Hand to Hand Records, and they pressed up vinyl, cassettes, and CDs, which sold out. They sold out of everything. And
that's awesome.
Digital downloads on his website that he sells directly off of his website, and he gets, all of it. So it's like, instead of selling a CD, Sam Goody $15.99, and the artist gets 4 cents, you can sell a CD, a digital download for $10 and keep $9 of it or whatever the deal you have worked out with your digital distributor is. And like that's fantastic. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have my whole project released digitally first on Young Key Music, and I'm gonna allow like my fans and stuff like that want it first to get it from there. And then I'm gonna press up actual copies and have hard copies, from people that want the physical and to take on tour for merch and stuff like that. As far as like the release date and everything like that, I don't know. It's kind of, I had ideas. I'm into astrology and synchronicities and all that. I like to have my release dates be on numbers that I think are cool. So I want to release something on 11/11. I don't know if it's going to be the whole project or just a single. Ideally, it would be a single and a video. But this banging song that I just made, dude, the timing is all off. It's going to be the single that I release like at summertime, like springtime, summertime.
Oh,
but
sure.
It's like, yeah, but I did it in the fall. It's not right. So the video, that's going to be coming soon. But I don't know. I might drop the whole project on 12/12 and a single on 11/11, and then just do like a video every month or every other month until summer.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love that, man. That sounds really cool. And like,
just push the project.
Oh yeah. Oh, that sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah, I really like that, and I like the whole. I think consistent. My whole thing is like consistency is cool. And like I've just like I said, I keep seeing you out there on social media. So like if you're giving me another single every month, or if it's like you have that kind of, you keep this momentum going, because did you do any other shows outside of your tour as well?
Yeah, so the tour actually lined us up another gig like a week after that. We went right back to Massachusetts because the whole tour was in New England.
Okay.
So
okay.
Went back up there and got to perform a little bit, and then Z was the headliner that night, and I got to do. The promoter asked me to be a host, which I actually really enjoyed.
Oh, cool.
So I was the MC for the night. Yeah, I got to
wow.
announce the other people and interact with the crowd and make jokes, and like I love that. I did that a lot in high school. I hosted a lot of events and stuff like that. So I got to do that, and then also lined up another tour. So I'm actually leaving. I'm here this week, and then November 3rd through the 7th, I'll be on, I think it's the 20th or 25th anniversary of CL Smooth's album that came out. So it's another 5 days. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. No, 4 days. I'm sorry, it's 4 days in November. I'm going back on tour to New England. So I'm going to open up with a lot of the artists that I met on tour last time. So I'm psyched. A lot of the artists that are going to be on the Bros project that's coming out in November. So it's like Oldie Ivory, a lot of members from Goat Squad. We got so many dope artists. I'm really psyched for you to hear that project. And that's going to really be a springboard too, because the Bros comes out on Thanksgiving, and then there's going to be a bunch of singles from that, because right now Rod Digga from The Outsiders is on 2 of the tracks. Bizarre from D12 is on one of the tracks.
Another Eminem.
Like you mentioned, Eminem's not on this one.
No, D12 was an Eminem project, weren't they?
Yeah, D12 is Eminem's group.
Yep.
So Bizarre is one of the members of D12 with Eminem, and so we have Bizarre, and then we have, you mentioned the Demigods. So we have Ill Bill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Ill Bill's on one of the tracks that we got. So we got some dope headliners on here. Still a couple more, I think, are going to be on. And we're going to be wrapping the project up shortly. And videos to follow. We're going to have merch for the Bros. We're going to push it really hard. I'm psyched. It's a project I'm proud to be a part of.
Oh, that's great. Well, the plan is to have this podcast come out in the beginning of November, so right before you go on tour. So I'll make sure that I get all of your tour dates. I put them in the show notes, and then people can get links and check you out, man.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So before I wrap it up with 3 final questions, was there anything else was there anything that I didn't ask that I should have asked?
Am I a dog person or a cat person?
Man, what are you? I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that you're. I'm gonna go curveball and say cat person on this one.
Yeah, you know me pretty well. Yeah,
I am
definitely
also a
cat.
cat person, but I live vicariously through other people's dogs. I just, because I meet more of them on the street.
Yeah, I've met a couple dogs though they haven't swayed me to dog person, but I'm like, I like that dog. I would actually own that dog. I've said that twice. Where I'm like, this dog is okay. This dog could live in the house for sure.
I've said I want to be that dog. I'm like, that dog seems like he's got a good. There's a Newfoundland who lives around the corner. He's like, I saw him being pulled around in a wagon. I was like, that dog has it going on.
Yeah. There's this dog that lives next to me, bro. I don't know what kind of. He's like. Did you ever see The Sandlot?
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, he's not that kind of dog, but he's bigger than that dog, basically. But it's insane. It's like he has the scare. You walk outside of the house and it's like it's ridiculous, dude. He was off the leash one time. I legit was like ready to fight for my life for a second. It was crazy, but this fucker has the thickest dick you've ever seen on a dog in your entire life, bro. It's enough to make anybody jealous. And I only know that because we were outside having a campfire the other day, and the dog was outside. It was me and my boy. And my wife is like, I can't believe how thick that dog's penis is. We lost it, dude. We lost it. But then, of course, we took it to the next level. We didn't stop talking about it for like 20 minutes. She was like, I'm never crossing the line with anything like that with you boys ever again.
That's amazing. And the one time that she opens up, it's
Yeah.
like
She's like, nope,
nonstop.
never again. No more innuendo for you two. You don't know when to turn it off.
So I have 3 questions that I used to ask every guest, and then the last podcast that I recorded I did at a folk festival. So I was like pressed for time and I didn't do it. So I'm gonna bring it back, and I figured you would appreciate it. And this goes back to like when I first started this podcast. My good friend Sean Curci, I was just like, what should I ask people? And he's like, you should have like a set of like 3 questions that you ask every guest. And he helped me come up with these 3. So the first one is, what was the first album that you ever bought or received as a gift?
So I'm pretty sure I got a CD player and 3 CDs at the same time for my birthday in 6th grade.
Nice.
And I think I unwrapped Sheryl Crow's album first.
Nice.
The Sheryl Crow album.
Yeah.
But I got Sheryl Crow. I got Green Day. I think it was the one with the mushroom cloud on the front. Dookie.
Yes, Dookie. Yep.
And I got TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool.
Oh, nice. Those
are the first 3 albums I ever got.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I had a similar only child experience. I got a CD player with CDs for, I think, Christmas.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. With the tape deck and the CD player, and I could make my little hot 5 at 9.
Oh, yeah.
100.3 mixtapes or whatever. 97.5, that's what it was.
I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I had a Talkboy, and like not that year, but like later on, and what I would do with my cousin Mike, shout out to Mike Wright, I made my own radio show. I wanted to be on the radio when I was a kid, and so I would literally talk into the Talkboy like, hey, this is Sean Smith coming at you from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and up next is Aerosmith with Living on the Edge, and then I would just put the Talkboy up to the left speaker. And I literally submitted that tape to, I thought that the tapes got lost over the years, but I think that actually, which they probably did, but I am a total hoarder, so I do keep everything. I think we submitted them all, because I would submit them to 100.7 and like the different radio stations. I would mail them in as demo tapes. And like, even if I especially if I saw I would literally go in the newspaper in the classifieds and look for job, and I would apply for jobs. I would call, and then I would call and follow up. And I'd be like, hey, did you get
How old at this time? Like 12, 13?
a little bit before. Yeah, probably like 10, 11. Yeah, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I was pretty young.
Wow.
Like fifth, sixth grade. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, second question. It's not supposed to be about me. What was your first concert that you ever attended?
My first concert I ever attended, I said I was a student of instrumental music. I was a clarinet player. I went to go see, my parents took me to see Kenny G, who's the the soprano sax player with the big curly hair.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny G. So I saw him, and he does this technique called circular breathing, where he breathes in through his nose and out through his mouth, and he's able to hold a note. I think he's got maybe I could be lying now. Fact check me. This isn't 100%, but he holds notes for a very long time, and he stays in pitch. And he does it with this technique called circular breathing. So when I was, I don't know, fifth grade maybe, my parents took me to this Kenny G concert, and he went around the audience holding this note for minutes. And he shook my hand. I was in the audience, and he came through our aisle holding the same note in pitch, and he shook my hand while it was happening. And that was the first concert I ever went to. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Did that was that kind of like one of the things where you're just like, all right, yeah, I want to do this?
No, not really, because like I said, I did clarinet, I did the music, but I wasn't feeling that music. Like, I moved on from clarinet to guitar, like almost as quick as I could, because I just wanted to play music that I liked. And my parents my mom was like, oh, classical's good, or like jazz, and I was like, my band in high school didn't even allow the clarinet in as a jazz instrument. I had to learn saxophone a little bit. I didn't really pick it up as much. I didn't really love it. So I switched to guitar, but never took lessons. So I just played by ear. So I never like really got into guitar, but I like that I could at least play music that sounded like the song. Like, I played Metallica. I don't think the tablature was right, but like it sounded like Metallica to me, and I like that. So that's why I love hip hop, because I can take that music that's in me, and now with computer programs, like, it's really easy to make beats, and you can express yourself that way. Or I can take writing, which I'm really good at, and I can write lyrics like without needing to learn an instrument. But you still have to fine tune your writing and your body as an instrument. But it was something I was able to do right then and there. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was thinking, like, seeing somebody do something so cool, you know what I mean? And then you get to meet Kenny G. Then you're like, was that one of the switches where you're just like, oh, I want to be a musician as my job?
No, it didn't. I thought it was cool that I met a famous person.
Oh, that's so cool. That's great.
Yeah. I was like, I shook Kenny G's hand. Like, I wasn't like, I want to be that dude. I was just like, that's kind of cool. Because, like, I don't know, fame was always a thing. Like, I guess, I don't want to say my family. Maybe my family. Like, that's a famous person.
Generation.
Or, like, my parents. My mom would have, like, my family would get those papers, the National Enquirer, and it's like, what's the Queen doing? Or, like, this celebrity did this. Like, that whole celebrity world I grew up on. Like, E! Entertainment News and, like, all that stuff. That source of information was in my house a lot growing up, I'm realizing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think it was a generation and a culture thing. Yeah, like you said, like it was around Howard Stern, the National Enquirer, all that other stuff, Pretty interesting. Yeah, like why would I want to be Howard Stern Private Parts. It was probably before then, but like what was it in my head that as a kid that made me want to be a DJ? You know what I mean? Like be on the radio.
Yeah.
Like what a weird thing. So last silly question. Oh, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, like you're made for it. It's so cool to hear the story that you were doing that at 10 and following up for jobs about the life that you're actually living now. Like you had a vision for what you wanted early, and you didn't stop. That's really cool.
Well, I forgot it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I kind of like, the only reason that I'm doing this now is because my publisher came to me at when I worked at the Current, and he was like, the internet is the new thing, right? And this was literally 2012. This is when the blog started, and he came to the newsroom, and he's like, the internet, you need to have a blog. Everybody here must write a blog. And I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, do I have to? And he's like, and I'm going to pay you. And I'm like, yes, I have to. Yeah, all right, cool. What do I have to? And he's like, you can write about whatever you want. And I'm like, well, the only thing I'm interested about is music. Really, it's the only thing I care about. And so I'll write about music. So then, so I came up with the High Note. You know, I thought I was clever with the name. You know, what was the name going to be? Oh, I'm going to get high and take notes. There we go. That's a good name for the High Note, right? And then, when it died, when the Current, went under, which now the Current is officially no longer a newspaper anymore. It was.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it published its last issue like 2 weeks ago. So we're recording this in the last week of October of 2022. So yeah, I think it had its last issue like a week or two ago. But yeah, right before Warren Buffett bought the press, and then they took over the Current, and they killed the staff and everything, and just made it kind of like a press release, generator, and then just like kind of reprinting stories that were printed in the press throughout the week. Yeah, so like now it's no longer anything. But when that happened, when Warren Buffett killed it, I just made it a blog, and then that was kind of when podcasts were coming around too. So like the blog started in, I guess, like 2014 by itself, and then like right after that, I was like, well, fuck it, I'll do a podcast. So it just kind of happened. It just kind of like, I didn't find the path. The path found me.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. I'm happy to be on here.
Yeah, man, this is great, man. This has been a great conversation. Like I said, it's been a long time in the making. And we'll have to have you back on again when you have your album out. That'll definitely be the thing.
That'd be great, dude. I'd appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, so last silly question. What is your favorite soundtrack from a movie, or a score from a movie?
My favorite soundtrack. Wow. So, 2 soundtracks I played a whole lot as a kid. I'll pick one of them. It was, I don't know, because sometimes like I'll pick movies that I liked as a kid and I'll share it with my kids, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awful. I don't believe I recommended this. So I really like the soundtrack to the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
Oh.
There.
Wait, what's on that? What was that first one?
Prince has a song on there.
Yes.
And I can't remember the rest of them, but I played that a bunch of times.
Oh, dude.
A bunch of times.
That soundtrack is amazing. So Prince, Prince wrote songs for that soundtrack, and God, there was a music video. I think there was a big Prince promotion with that movie. I just can't remember. I just can't remember off the top of my head what it all was. There was a bunch of really good songs on that soundtrack. Do you remember what else? That was a great. That was back when movie soundtracks could be their own thing, right? Like now that doesn't really happen as much anymore.
Yeah. Yep. That and the Ninja Turtles soundtrack with Ice's Ninja Rap, dude. I listened to that a bunch of times too.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Oh, dude. Dude, oh my god. Can you do a remix of that? Can you throw like can I just like put it out there? Maybe we'll have to have a conversation off the podcast about licensing it exclusively for the High Note.
I like that. I'm down.
Awesome. Well, Bran Nu, thank you very much for being a guest on the High Note podcast. I really appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. We got to catch up, have coffee in person. I really appreciate that. This is great. This is a lot of fun.
Do you want to mention your social media accounts?
So you can reach me on Instagram. You can follow me at Bran Nu Jersey. That's BranNuJercy. You can hit me at the same Gmail. It's brandnewjersey@gmail.com. And you can follow me on Facebook/BRANNU Music, Brand New Music. What else? Oh,
SoundCloud. Yeah.
SoundCloud.com/Brand New Jersey. BRANNUJERCY. And my mixtape can be found on there. The Brand New Total BS mixtape. All 10 tracks are on there. And a bunch of other stuff I've done for like 15 years. So it goes back to like my earlier roots.
That is awesome, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, brother. All right, peace.
Talk to you soon. Peace.
Later.
I don't think anyone wants to hear about football/soccer.